Thank you for joining us as we review The Road to War. We'll start by looking at the economic reasons for the beginnings of World War II. After World War I, the United States and other Western countries enjoyed a post-war economic boom. Much of this was fueled by industry as people purchased cars and appliances. Unfortunately, in the United States, farmers did not share in this prosperity. As European soldiers returned back to their farms, American goods were not needed. And as supply increased, prices fell. In the mid-1920s, stock prices soared. People began borrowing money to buy more stock, convinced that they would be able to repay the loan with money earned from the rising stocks. Prices quickly became wildly overvalued. It all comes crashing down in October of 1929 on a day known as Black Tuesday, as stock market prices tumbled in what is known as the Wall Street crash. The stock market crash marks the beginning of a worldwide depression. Prices fall, jobs are lost, and even those who did not lose their jobs spent as little as possible in the fear that they would lose their jobs. And this, of course, meant more layoffs as people were not purchasing things. Unemployment rose rapidly, and in places in Europe, as many as 20 to 25% of the population were without jobs. In Germany, things are much worse. On top of the depression, the high cost of war reparations leaves Germany's economy a mess. In the picture to the right here, this young lady is using worthless money printed by the government to start the fire in her home furnace. Literally, the money was not worth the paper that it was printed on. This young lady to the right is holding a sign saying that she is looking for work. The poor economic condition and the uncertainty results in political instability, which leads to both unrest and violence. In the years leading up to World War II, we see a rise in totalitarian governments. In totalitarian governments, the government controls every aspect of life. Citizens have no privacy, and there are no independent organizations outside of the government. The political system of the totalitarian government dominates religion, family life, the economy, and education. Totalitarian governments are also marked by an all-powerful, often charismatic leader. In Germany, the economic hardships and political instability led to the rise of the Nazi Party, headed by Adolf Hitler. The Nazi Party was anti-communist. It was opposed to the democratic Weimar Republic. It was extremely nationalistic and strongly anti-Semitic, in other words, opposed to Jews. The Nazi Party was willing to use violence to achieve its gains and to get rid of anybody who stood in its way. Adolf Hitler was a powerful speaker who attracted a wide following among Germans who were looking for a change. He promised a better life and a new and glorious Germany. And the Nazis appealed to the unemployed, the young, and the lower middle class. And soon they dominated Germany. In 1933, Hitler was appointed as Chancellor or head of the German government, and many of his supporters believed that they had found a savior for their nation. Of course, they could not have been more horribly wrong. In Italy, you should be familiar with Benito Mussolini. He's a key figure in the development of fascism, and like Hitler, he promises a return to earlier greatness. In this case, Italy would return to the greatness that was seen in the Roman Empire. Both Germany with the Nazi Party and Italy had fascist governments. Fascist governments are those who are strongly opposed to communism and socialism. They run their country as a totalitarian state. The devotion is to the leader, and it's an emphasis on nationalism and militarism. They believe that violence and war are means to national goals, and a stronger nation has a right to expand even if it displaces a weaker nation. In the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin had communism firmly established as rulers of the nation. Stalin used violence to secure his power and overcome anybody who might resist him, using secret polices and purges in which millions of people were starved or executed. The pictures to the right are an example. This gentleman at one point had been a close ally of Stalin. However, he fell out of favor, which normally meant you disappeared. In this case, the Soviets went back and erased him from all photographs and all records as if he never existed. Under Stalin, you see 5-year economic plans for the country's economy. Farms were banded together collectively and run and controlled and owned by the government. Factories were also controlled by the government, and the emphasis was on industry and military. In Japan, you should be familiar with two people, the Emperor Hirohito and the Prime Minister, Army General Hideki Tojo. As the island nation of Japan industrialized, it required raw materials for its industry and began looking for sources of that raw material. The Empire of Japan believed that militarism should dominate both political and social life, and that a nation's strength equal to the strength of its military. In the 1930s, we see Japan expanding by invasion as it grabbed areas in search for those raw materials. Korea, Manchuria, and eventually about 25% of China were under Japan's control. Thank you for joining us as we took a quick look at the road to war as we approach World War II.